A TGIF, everybody. Welcome into the First Call Podcast. He's Jeff Siegel. I'm Jeremy Plonk. We represent First Bet and Express Bet. This is our handicapping portion of our weekly podcast. Of course, Tuesday on It's Official, we recap action and talk about hot topics. We try to get hot handicapping on the Friday show. We're glad you're along with us. Jeff, we've got 8 stakes around the country. I'm looking out my window right here in the studio and snow coming down in the Northeast. It's going to be okay in New York City. I'm a couple hours west of there. We've got snow, our first sign of winter. Should be some wet track conditions if you're playing the Northeast tracks here on Friday. But Saturday's cards look pretty good. Temps in the mid-50s and sunny skies for the East Coast. We've got some stakes from Aqueduct and Laurel for Saturday to talk about. So weather a little bit of an issue for Friday, but shouldn't be any problem come tomorrow.
What is this snow that you speak of?
First time it's since early March. I can tell you that.
Okay, I've actually never been in snow. Now I went to a mountain once that had snow on it, and so I was through it, but I've never actually had snow on my head, so I don't know what that's about.
I don't mind that it's November 23rd and we're getting our 22nd and we're getting our first snow of the year. That's not too bad. Sometimes we get around Halloween, so we got an extra month of nice fall here this year.
Oh, that game last night, that was fun, I guess, playing in the snow.
Yeah, exactly. Browns and Steelers.
Yeah. Anyway, we've got some racing at Aqueduct, Gulfstream, Laurel, a couple of stakes there, and Churchill's got a couple, and then, of course, Del Mar here with the native divers. So it's kind of light in terms of the quality, but we'll make do and see if we can pick some winners here. Of course, next week, Thanksgiving, so we will not have a show next Friday, but we will be on Tuesday for our It's Official. Lots to talk about there. And then you guys will be on your own next weekend as Jeremy and I will be celebrating Thanksgiving with our families, so we'll enjoy that. Hope that you will as well. But let's make some money this week. Spending some money next week, and we'll make it this week.
All right, let's get set for it. For those of you listening on our traditional audio podcast channels, here are the 8 races Jeff and I will handicap on this week's show. We've got 2 divisions of the New York Stallion Series from Aqueduct, the fillies and mares first up in the Staten Island. We'll see the boys into Thunder Rumble sprinters there at the Big A. To Gulfstream we go, 2-year-old sprinters in the spotlight for Gulfstream Park's juvenile sprint. Final weekend before we get to the championship meet, which debuts on Thursday on Thanksgiving next week at Laurel Park. A trio of stakes races on Saturday. We want the Churchill Downs, we go for a full stake on Saturday, the Chaluki and the Commonwealth Turf. And to Del Mar, it's the Native Divers Stakes. Actually got a better edition of that race than you might expect for the money. So we'll talk about the Native Diver. Those are our 8 races. For those of you watching on X, watching on YouTube, be sure to put comments in the comment section. Share this out with your friends. Help us grow the audience here for the First Call Podcast. Jeff, let's go to Staten Island, shall we? It's not Staten Island where Aqueduct is, but it's the Staten Island division of the New York Stallion Stakes. So let's go to race number 7 at the Big A on Saturday. We've got a field of 6 sprinters in here. You're on the 4, Brown Sugar Babe, coming off a win last time out. Tell us why.
And a good win that was with a career top speed figure. She's obviously one of the things that I use as a key is to try to lean on horses that I know like the track, and Brown Sugar Babe is 2 out of 4 at Aqueduct. That's good. She's got great tactical speed. She's got a really good style for 7 furlongs. Her most recent one was a 1-turn mile, which is close enough. She can lay fairly close and then kick on with it as she did. And I don't think she's ever run better than she did in her last race, not necessarily because of the number, but because of the style that she put away all the speed and they dropped far out of it. She stuck around and was actually lengthening out in the final furlong and wasn't really being knocked about for trainer Jamie Ness, high percentage trainer there. So, I mean, 4-1, I'll take that right now if I can get a Brown Sugar Babe in her present form. She's a 3-year-old, but she's pretty experienced. She's been around the block a few times. And, again, after 20 starts, she's never been better. So, Brown Sugar Babe for me to win the 7th race at Aqueduct.
I think I said field of 6. There are 7 entered in there. 2 of them from trainer David Duggan. He's got the 2 Sunday Girl, and he's also got the 5 in there, Lisa's Vision. Anytime it's a smallish field size and a trainer has more than 1 in there, I always get the feeling that one was really meant to run in the race, and the other one's helping to fill the field sometimes. And if you can figure out which one the trainer really has the intent for, I think it can be a decent handicapping angle in there. So do a little digging if you can, maybe on the 2 Sunday Girl and the 5 Lisa's Vision. Study those 2 a little bit in addition to Jeff's top pick in there, Brown Sugar Babe, in the 7th. To the 8th we go. If you're looking for a daily double play, you can just roll right from the 7th to the 8th. Race number 8 is the Thunder Rumble division of the New York Stallion Series. And Thunder Rumble, of course, the Travers winner, the first New York bred to win the Travers back in 1992. He was a Saratoga star, but his stakes race and his name for the New York Stallion Series is at Aqueduct. It is race number 8, a field of 8 in here. And some familiar names in here. We've seen General Banker, Antonio of Venice. Some of these horses have been around these New York bred stakes races for a bit. Jeff, who'd you go with in this one?
I went with Antonio of Venice, although I'm slightly concerned, only slightly. We saw him last spring, won very nicely, beating Doc Sullivan in a very sharp effort. Again, a 91 Beyer number, which is going to be good enough, I think, to win this if he comes back to that. Now, the only concern I have is he was entered in a race during the summer and was scratched and had to be stopped on. But in looking at the work tab, a bunch of bullet works there should have him fit and ready. Again, leaning on the horse for course theory, 4 starts, 3 wins, and a second at Aqueduct, and with a perfect style for 7/8. He's got a good stalking style. He's always in the fray, and then he can kick on with it when you ask him. He's not one of these horses that has to open up and hang on for dear life, or a horse that has to come from way out of it. He puts himself in the right spot at the right time, and if he returns as well as he left, I expect him to win. He's 2-1. That's about what I think he should be. Antonio of Venice, I think, will win and come back a winner, as he looked so good winning a similar race here back in April.
Almighty, far back. It's Cable ready. Get in the queue now. It's Antonio of Venice, and Antonio of Venice kicks away. Antonio of Venice, Doc Sullivan is chasing, but Antonio of Venice is just opening up here. Is now up by 2, 3 widening lengths inside the final furlong. Just a touch green there, but now Antonio of Venice straightens up, is inside the final 16th, and by the late sire, the Stallion Lauban. It's Antonio of Venice to win the Times Square division. Finishing second there was Doc Sullivan, then came Grant.
Doc Sullivan back in this one. And since that race, Doc Sullivan went on to have a really good summer, won the Mike Lee, really sharp in the New York bred, ranked second in the New York Derby, and then ran in open company last time out in the Pennsylvania Derby, 6th beaten 9 by Seize the Gray and company. So Doc Sullivan certainly franked the form, I think, throughout the course of the summer of just how good this colt was, Antonio of Venice, in the spring. Jeff's top pick, the 6 in race number 8, the Thunder Rumble. We go next to Gulfstream Park on Saturday. 2-year-olds in the spotlight for the juvenile sprint. These are Florida breds going 6.5 furlongs. Compact field in this particular one. We've got a field of 6. A big Paradise coming out of the Affirm division of the Florida Sire Stakes. You got a couple horses coming out of the Hollywood Beach and Most Handsome and Noble and Magical. So you've got some horses that already have a little bit of stakes experience. Jeff, who'd you go with in this 2-year-old dash?
Well, I looked at this field, and Big Paradise obviously was pretty good in his debut when he set off the pace and won going away, which indicates to me that the 6.5 furlong distance will be good for him, because he should be able to sit close up and then kick on with it as he did in his debut. And then he obviously bit off more than he could chew in his next start, going 7/8. That's a monster who beat him, and no disgrace there. Very fast race, and even being beaten 11 lengths in that race, he earned a Beyer number that was 10 points better than what he earned in his debut, in his win. So I like that. I always like to see with 2-year-olds or young horses, when they run their second start, that they produce a forward move. I mean, sometimes you get these horses, they win first time out and then they go backwards, and they usually never come back. But this horse, even getting trounced, earned a really good number. And there's nobody in this field that's even remotely as good as what he just saw, which is why he's 6-5 in the morning line.
Right.
But I expect him to run really well here. And he doesn't really have to run any better than even his last race, much less his debut. So looks like a short price. And I think, again, how short do you want to take him? But if you're playing a rolling exotic, I think you can probably lean on him as a single. Big Paradise at Gulfstream.
Irad Ortiz down the ride at Gulfstream on Saturday. So we got some jocks moving around a little bit. Big Paradise, again, last time out, as you mentioned, chased a monster named Rated by Merit. A little bit of news on him. He's expected to go opening day at Gulfstream Park for the championship meet in the featured race for the opening week of the championship meet, the Florida Sire Stakes. He's going to go to the mile on the 16th next. He had a workout you can check out at XBTV, one of our works of the day. Check that out on X under Watch XBTV if you want to see the workout for Rated by Merit. Is one of the fastest 2-year-old sprinters, maybe the fastest 2-year-old sprinter in America. It's going to see how far he can go next out in the finale for the Florida Sire Stakes, that coming up Thanksgiving weekend at Gulfstream. Let's go to Laurel Park on Saturday, where we've got a trio of stakes races. Race number 4 on the card is the Willow on the Move. We're going to handicap the 7th, and we'll also look at the 8th race, those being the Dave's Friend and the Richard W. Small. So at Laurel Park on Saturday, if you bet with us at First Bet and Express Bet, we've got a $10 money back special for you on all 3 of these stakes races. That means if your win bet in races 4, 7, or 8 at Laurel Park on Saturday finishes 2nd or 3rd, you'll get up to $10 back into your account in the form of wagering credits. So given the field sizes and the opportunity to run 2nd and 3rd, these are pretty good money back special opportunities in here. So I think you want to look at not only who Jeff picks in this race, but how you might play a win bet. Because even if you take a little bit of a chance against the favorite or with a price horse, again, all you have to do is finish 2nd or 3rd to get your money back. And we're not talking about the deepest fields in here. So the 7th race on the card is the Dave's Friend, and this has a field of 7 in here. Some familiar names people know over the years: Dean Delivers, Manny Waugh. This is a good group of experienced horses in the stakes dirt sprint ranks. And then you've got Witty in here, who sometimes is a turf sprinter, sometimes is a dirt sprinter, but he's always a late runner. Witty is going to come with his run, Jeff Siegel. Will he get there going 6 furlongs?
You know, I thought maybe he was like going the other way for a while. I mean, he did not run well at Kentucky Downs, but, you know, that's an excuse. I mean, that's just, of course. And he didn't fire at all as he's favored on grass. He should have run better 2 races back at Laurel, and I was really worried that maybe he'd lost it. But he came back and won nicely. And not only that, but he earned a 93 buyer number in his most recent start. Granted, it was an allowance race, but he did it. He did it like he still has some left. And also, again, I'm reiterating the horse for course theory. 1st or 2nd, all 5 of his starts over the Laurel main track. And here's another amazing stat: 1st or 2nd, 19 out of 27 lifetime with no thirds. So either maybe this is just him. He's either going to fire or he just says, forget it, I'm not running.
Right.
I don't know. But if he decides to run here, again, his form at 6 furlongs, 1st or 2nd, 8 out of 10. I think, though, it made it look precarious going into the far turn. Hey, I don't know if he'll get up. You never know about Witty. And if he decides to run, I think he'll wear this field down. So, again, 2-1 on the morning line. Probably not a great price, but based on his last race, he looks to me like he still has it in him.
At the top of the lane, Arden's Lucky to Be. Opening up now, 3. Patinga's Twin. Here's Witty on the outside, producing that late kick. Witty's coming to the center of the track, and it is Arden's Lucky to Be, just desperate to hold on. Witty on the outside, forging to the front from Patinga's Twin. These 2 down to the line. Witty does it all. Turf or dirt, Witty wins.
6 furlongs, 109 and 2. That's not easy to do, especially with that running style. You would think it has to be a meltdown kind of race for his running style to win, much less to win that fast in 9 and 2. Dean Delivers no speed here. He won the DeFrancis Dash at Laurel Park in the summertime. I had the good fortune of being there that day with my dad, enjoying the races. Ned Allard's horses were going really good that time of year. He's kind of in a funk right now. I think he's 0 for 17 at the current Laurel meet, which started the beginning of October. So the Allard barn's not going well, but I do respect Dean Delivers a lot in this particular spot, coming off a 3rd place finish in the Vosburg. This is an easier one, but Witty, solid rival. Those 2 look to have the race to me, the 4 and the 3. Manny Waugh's been off form, but this is an 8-year-old veteran who's earned over $1 million in the sprint ranks. You respect his past form, but his current form a little hard to embrace off a dull effort in the Phoenix, and won at Churchill as well. So maybe Manny Waugh can bounce back. I love to see these old veteran sprinters, though. 8-year-old full horse and a horse who's made $1 million. So a nice race for the Dave's Friend Stakes, but it should run down to the 4 and the 3. Dave's Friend, an interesting horse. I always like to try to give a little history on these races named after a horse. He ran till 11 years old. We talk about the 8-year-old Manuel. Dave's Friend made over $1 million, won 35 of 76. He was a Maryland bred, started his career in Maryland, but he went all over the country. He was out your way, Hollywood, Santa Anita,
Sure.
for some big races in the day, all across the Midwest as well, and up his career is there. Dave's Friend, the horse that's staking for in 7th race. Let's go to the 8th race at Laurel on Saturday. Look, if it's not a great betting opportunity with Whitty and the short prices Dean delivers, maybe you're not looking at an exact in race number 7. You're looking at a win bet for sure with that $10 money back special, and also the potential to daily double, because as we roll on to race number 8, we've got a field of 8 in the Richard W. Small Stakes. Trainer Dickie Small, most famously known for Concern, winner of the 1994 Breeders' Cup Classic. He also had the great Broad Brush. He passed away in 2014 after a couple-year battle with cancer. The Dickie Small Stakes at 1 mile and an 1/8 on the main track in here. And we've got some familiar horses. If you watch Maryland Million Day in here, Mosler Time, Ain't the Beer Cold, some of these horses that we're used to seeing in the state bred ranks, but this is an open company race here. Who'd you like in the small, Jeff?
Ended up with a 3-year-old tackling older for the first time, Copper Tax.
Mm-hmm.
Again, 3 for 3 at Laurel. It's just really hard for me to ignore that statistic, especially with horses in back east where they move around a lot. I mean,
yeah.
This is a colt that ran at Aqueduct. He ran the Ohio Derby at Thistle, at Laurel, Tampa Bay, Delaware. I mean, and it doesn't seem to faze him. I mean, if he's in the right spot, which is to say he's not overmatched, which he usually isn't, then he's pretty dependable. And after winning the Tessio and before that, the Private Terms, respectable third in the Ohio Derby. Again, buyers in the 90s came out of that race, ran okay at 8-1 in the Discovery in a tough spot, but again, earned a very strong 95 career top buyer number, even in defeat. So even though he got beat, he ran his race and maybe then some.
Yeah.
And now, again, a bullet breeze since this race over the track shows me he's doing well for Capuano. And I mean, to me, he's just at 1 mile and 1/8. I think he'll settle somewhere in the middle and then kick on and beat this field. I think he'll outclass him. Good 3-year-old, 7 out of 12 lifetime, so he knows how to win. And I think he'll add to that total in this race.
That inside draw on post number 2 helps him out here. 1 mile and 1/8 race. It's a 9-furlong oval at Laurel, so it's a short run into the first turn. Even if you're closer, you want to save ground. You don't want to have to, drop all the way back and come out of it. And one thing about Copper Tax, if you look at his past running lines, it's a good thing he's a finisher because he's a terrible starter. He's got about as bad a luck getting bumped and shuffled around at the start as anybody you're going to see multiple times through the running lines. As a quarter horse, you wouldn't bet him, but at 1 mile and an 1/8, you certainly like him. Let's go back to the spring when he won the Federico Tessio. That win and you're in for the Preakness. They ended up bypassing that race, but he was good over this track, now 3 for 3.
Side, top of the stretch, and it's Speediness. Speediness has run. Speediness kicks away from them. Copper Tax and inveigled and lat long to the center of the track. They are followed by Corolo Rapido. Speediness now put to a drive with a furlong left to go. Copper Tax is reaching. Here comes Copper Tax. Copper Tax on the outside under a full head of steam. Copper Tax keeps on rolling. Speediness trying to hold. Speediness, Copper Tax. Copper Tax to get up in the Federico Tessio Stakes. Copper Tax. Speediness.
He caught the Jamie Ness trainee in their Speediness. He might have to catch a Jamie Ness trainee again in his return in the small. Ness has 2 of them in here, Magic Michael and Accelerator. Accelerator's won 3 of the last 4, but it's Magic Michael who interests me in here because he's a horse that Ness gets his top rider, Jaime Rodriguez, to ride. And in fact, that you get Rodriguez on this one and not Accelerator, I think is a bit of a tell. The other thing, too, is Jamie Ness is a claiming trainer. You're not looking at workout tabs with Jamie Ness. He rarely works his horses. Honestly, they just kind of keep running and running in form. Magic Michael had a bullet workout November 16th, really kind of out of the blue at Parks, and then lures his top pilot aboard. I think that's a little bit of a tell in there. So Magic Michael, the 5, is one I'm going to keep my eye in there, along with Copper Tax and Mosler Time. 5, 2, and 3, the way I see it in the Richard Small, that being race number 8, Saturday at Laurel Park. Again, $10 money back special when you bet with First Bet and Express Bet. Be sure to opt into the promos when you sign into your account so you can take advantage of that. WinBet finishes second or third in those stakes races at Laurel, you end up getting your money back up to $10.
I was looking at Magic Michael, and then I remembered my rule of not playing Parks horses. So.
Yes, that's right. And it's a good rule for you because
for me, it works. I mean,
yes.
I wish I wasn't burdened by it, quite frankly. I am. So. Anyway, but you got, by the way, when watching Copper Tax's race that we just saw on video, it struck me as how one-paced he is. He's kind of a grinder. But that kind of explains why he's good at Laurel, because he's got a longer run in the stretch. And I wouldn't want him in a sharp track with a short stretch. I wouldn't want him at Del Mar, let's put it that way.
Right.
But at Laurel, I can see why he likes it.
That is the Richard W. Small Stakes. Let's go Saturday to Churchill Downs, where we've got a pair in Louisville, Kentucky to talk about. Stakes races on the card go as races 8 and 10. Race number 8 is the Chuluki Stakes. The 10th will be the Commonwealth Turf. Not a lot of grass racing left in the U.S. They're finished with the grass in New York now. Remington Park in Oklahoma, they had their last turf race last week. So not a lot of grass racing this time of year. Gulfstream Park waiting for the championship meet to get back on the grass. So it'll be interesting to see when we talk about the 10th, the Commonwealth Turf, to get a good green race on the green this coming weekend. But let's start with the Chuluki Stakes. It's race number 8, a 1-mile event in here. Named for the filly who was the 1999 2-year-old champion. She won 6 to 7, ran second in the Breeders' Cup, and still got the Eclipse Award that year. And why do you think they had a race named for Chuluki at Churchill Downs? She was 4 for 4 there. Started her career with 3 straight wins. Came back and won the Derby City Distaff a little bit later in her career. So Chuluki unbeaten over the track at Churchill Downs. She's got a stakes in her name here that drew a field of 8 over 8 furlongs. The 1-turn mile. Jeff, who do you like?
I like Too Sharp. Lightly raced, twirling handy filly. Was all the rage in her debut. Got beat. Came back and won by 11. She was a 4 to 5 in the Prioris. And even though she got beat that day, she still earned a very fast number, 94 Beyer number, and then came back with a confidence-building win at Keeneland. She was supposed to win that race in a row, and she did. And again, 96 Beyer number is very, very fast. She's been fast in all of her races. Obviously, a little bit of a freshening now, but that shouldn't bother her. And the interesting thing, though, is after winning by 6, now she's running with blinkers on. I wonder what prompted the connections to do that. But they must have.
And typically, you have to get permission to do that, to make an equipment change off a win. That's usually something that you've got to get approval to do. That's not just trainer's discretion. So they must have had to prove some sort of, I don't, or reason for it.
When people always, the old thinking is that when you put blinkers on because you want to show, want the horse to show more speed, but that's not always the case. No, it may just be that. The jock saying, this filly's looking around. I think, and obviously they breezed her in blinkers. Well, I haven't seen the work, but they must have been, pleased with the way she performed with the hood on. So again, I think she's too quick for these. I also like the fact that she's shown the ability to take early heat and then give you a second move again, and not one of these fast horses that opens up and you have to hold your breath in the final furlong. I think she'll be able to dominate from gate to wire, even though this is a tough race. But on pure numbers, she's just faster than these, and I expect her to run that way.
She looked good at Keeneland. Let's take a look back with Kurt Becker.
By a length, moving by the 8th pole, now by a length and a half. Coastal Invasion second. The lead just keeps growing for Too Sharp with every stride. Now it's out to 5 lengths past the 16th pole. Coastal Invasion second, Connive in third, floored to 4th, no catching. Too Sharp, Junior Alvarado's second win on the card. Coastal Invasion second, Connive third, floored 4th.
Bill Bauer having a heck of a year. We'll see if he gets another one there with Too Sharp. Positano Sunset's an interesting one. Jockey Julian Leperoux, I think 1 win away from 3,000 now. Looking at a milestone watch. He had 1 win yesterday in Kentucky. Maybe this will be the one that gets him to the 3,000 plateau. Ian Wilkes trains Positano Sunset, whose running lines are pretty impeccable. Ran against Vava, Society, Zeitlos. This is an easier spot. It's still a grade 3, but those are grade 1 type Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Sprint runners. Positano Sunset, a bit of a drop in class here, certainly would be a major consideration. The 7 Ouvre horse, who's run on turf and dirt with some success. Trainer Chris Block won this race 2 years ago. He tries again with Ouvre, who was 3rd in this race a year ago. So we know Ouvre fits in this particular spot. 6 and 7 horses to consider in there with the 4 Too Sharp, Jeff.
I tell you what, I think Positano Sunset is a logical exacta partner if you like Too Sharp, because she likes to lay back, and theoretically, if the race shapes up like I think, Too Sharp will take care of the speed, and she'll come and pick up the pieces. Not lost also is the fact that her career top Beyer number of 97, which is very, very, very fast. was accomplished at Churchill. So, I mean, to me, I think I think to me, the 4-6 exact, and she's 10-1 on the morning line. I mean, that's that if you play exactas and you want to hammer one, this would be the one that I think you could do it with. Too Sharp over Positano Sunset. Best speed, best closer, and both horses look like they're primed for major effort in this race.
Royal Spot here, Flavian Pratt, Rudy Brisset, not any stronger connections this time of year. They've been on an absolute roll since October. So Pratt, Brisset teaming up with the 5 Royal Spot. Deep edition of the Chaluki Stakes should be a good one. Race number 8 at Churchill on Saturday. To the Commonwealth Turf, we're on the grass at Churchill Downs. Grade 3, $300,000. Big purse in here. Jeff, we've got a field of 9 in this race over a mile and a 16th. Who do you like in the 10th?
Here's another situation where you see a horse earn a career top number in defeat, which means that, and I like Dashman actually in the Jockey Club Derby, but he just got outfooted. But on the other hand, he didn't run badly, and he did run the best race on numbers that he ever had. So he didn't go backwards. He just got outfooted. And those horses that beat him are pretty darn good. Carson's Run, Deterministic in that group. So now he's back at a middle distance, which I think will be good for him. And again, facing what I think are easier horses. I mean, obviously, My Boy Prince is a tough 3-year-old. Numbers wise, though, I don't think he's quite as fast as some of the horses he just ran. Dashman just chased.
Right.
I mean, 6-1 on My Boy Prince, I'd use him too, even though he got run over in the last race. But I think he'll run better. But Dashman, to me, I'm going to stick with him on this race. The drop back and trip, the rise in Beyer numbers, lightly raced. Oscar Performance will get a horse that'll get better. Like the draw. I mean, he's 5-2. He's not like any kind of big price, but I do think he'll continue his improving pattern, and maybe it's good enough to win this race.
I agree with you. I'm with him on this race. He's got a pretty good post. My Boy Prince has got some speed to the inside. Nothing around him, though, in the 2 and 4 post that has any speed at all. So he should get a really nice, clean break and be able to just kind of get there and track My Boy Prince if he wants to. And the rest of this field doesn't have a ton of pace to it. So he could get an absolute first over beautiful trip in here. Dashman, my top pick in here under Luis Saez as well. For the exact, give a look to number 8, Hershey in here, the well-named son of Twirling Candy, a horse who's coming off a 3rd in the Bryan Station last time out. That was a pretty good addition to the Bryan Station that had a blistering pace, and this horse did not buckle after chasing 44-109 in a mile. So Hershey's a pretty nice one. 3-8 for me in the Commonwealth Turf. Let's move now to Del Mar for our final race of the weekend as we handicap here on the First Call podcast. The 8th race at Del Mar is the Native Diver, grade 3. Native Diver, Jeff, I like to talk about the history of horses, but this is one that's kind of in your neck of the woods. So tell us about Native Diver and a little bit, any memories you have, and, just one of the iconic horses, I guess, in Hollywood Park history in Southern California.
I actually saw a Native Diver run when I was 9 years old. It was a stakes race for 2-year-olds at Santa Anita, 1960, okay? And he was a wild runoff, blazingly fast, couldn't rate him type of horse. But then as he got older, he learned to relax. And he was almost impossible to get by when he made the lead, which was like every race he ran because he was so fast. As good a sprinter as he could have been, Buster Millbrook, who trained him, thought he might last longer if he would go a distance to ground, which he wouldn't have races where he wouldn't have to tear out of there.
Yeah.
3 Gold Cups he won. I mean, he was just very much of a fan favorite. He was a big black horse. Come in the paddock, he'd prance and he'd do all of his antics. But then in the races, he'd settle down. And as I say, a very popular cowbred who didn't break down. He died young. I think he died in a van. He had colic in the van or something shipping up north when he was still in peak form. It was kind of a very sad day, but I remember him well. And I'm glad they still remember him, 60 some odd years later. If I can remember him, they can remember him. Okay. So anyway, Native Diver, terrific racehorse. And this race is it's the kind of race he would have won. I can tell you that. On the front end, no one would ever have seen him. And no one would have ever caught him.
Let's talk about this field of 6. We've got a couple Bafferts in here. They draw the 1 and the 2, Miramati and Ultra Power. You got Skinner, Salesman, Tarantino, and Mixto, the winner of the Pacific Classic. You got a horse who won the $1 million Pacific Classic a couple starts back over this track, coming back for a $100,000 grade 3 company here for Mixto. So look, he was 22-1 when he won the Pacific Classic. He's going to be a much shorter price than that. Do you take Mixto back, or are you looking another direction?
Well, he did win the Pacific Classic, but he's still eligible to 2 other than, so it's not like he's got a lot of wins next to his name.
Right.
I'll tell you what. Here's how I handicap this race. I hope I'm right about it, because Ultra Power, again, by curling out of the fantastic race mare Unique Bella, and he always was an enigma to me because he trained like a really, really good horse, and and he was not that, but he came off a layoff, excuse me, in an allowance race at Del Mar, same track he's running here, and he looked so good with a 104 Beyer number that I thought maybe Bob Baffert would get creative with him and maybe even try him in the Breeders' Cup Mile or something like that, especially since it was at Del Mar. So after that race, they took him to Santa Anita, and he looked, I'll be frank, he looked awful in his workouts. I mean, he looked like he was, I don't know what he was doing. And finally, I thought maybe he didn't like Santa Anita or something like that. So Bob runs him in an allowance race. He's even money, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't know if this horse is going to run this way. If he runs his horse, he's not. Well, he ran third, got beat a neck, and if you watch the race, he absolutely hated the track. He just wasn't striding out.
Right.
It was just awful. Now he's back at Del Mar, okay? And he's training better, so maybe he's getting used to Santa Anita, but I'm expecting Ultra Power to run back to that race 2 races back. Again, the horse for course theory. And if he does, if he runs back that allowance race in which he looked like a horse that could be a Breeders' Cup horse, he'll beat Mixto and everything else in this race. I really believe that. So hopefully he'll do that. And then the 6 months in Santa Anita, I don't know what they're going to do with him, but maybe put him on the road. I don't know. Send him to Churchill or whatever. But I'm really looking forward to this colt, who's just a 3-year-old and has a chance, I think, to be a really, really top handicap horse, as long as it's not Santa Anita.
Let's take a look at his last try at Del Mar a couple starts ago.
To the top of the lane, and Ultra Power now very strong, takes the lead and kicks for home. Ultra Power in full flight for the wire. Bright Leaf is starting a run down the center of the track, but Ultra Power just never gave them a chance. Big long striding strides as Ultra Power and Juan Hernandez absolutely annihilate them.
Now, I got a little backwards in my handicapping in this race, Jeff. I'm looking for a horse to complete the exact. I'm a little uncertain about who's going to win. I think Miramati's got speed. Ultra Power, certainly his best race is winnable in here. Mixto, of course, winning the Pacific Classic over this track. Tarantino, the horse who just beat Ultra Power. I think they're all kind of in the same boat win contender-wise. One horse who I don't like to win is the 1-for-11 Skinner, but I do like him to run second in here. I think he's set up pretty nicely in this spot. He's second off a layoff. He was gone a year, came back and ran a decent second, going 6.5 furlongs. So now it's the old school sprinter route, second off the layoff from an old school trainer like John Sheriff. So I think he's well spotted in this particular race. And I think second off the layoff, Skinner's going to fire. But his idea of firing is just to pass some tired horses, and he never quite gets there. But I'm going to use Skinner underneath in the exacta and try to catch it. That's the way I kind of dissected this one in the race of the week. I would take a 2-3 exacta in here. I think Skinner will be a fair price as well.
He was going to be my long shot play in the Derby. If I recall, I think he was scratched that week, didn't run.
Yeah.
And that was because he was running so well at Santa Anita over a track that was very pro speed, and he was bucking the bias on, and he doesn't really have any tactical speed. So you don't have to sell me on Skinner. Now, Del Mar was a pro speed track in the summer. It's not that bad now. It's kind of fair now, so I don't think that'll bother him. And if he can get some help up front, then Skinner has a chance to at least hit the board, if not else. Again, the problem with him is he's still eligible to non-winners at 2, but he's 0-for-5 at Del Mar. So I don't know what to make of him. But I
wouldn't play him on top. But like I said, these kind of horses that run second, that's where I'm going to try.
Exactly. And Miramati's going to go. They'll put him on the lead. Ultra Power will sit second. Mixto will lay fairly close up, but I'm not sure the pace will be as fast as I think Skinner really needs to win, But I think he can, as you pointed out, he should be able to clunk up and get a piece of it, if nothing else.
Right.
But I mean, in watching that video with Ultra Power, I mean, he looked to me like a horse that, had he run that way in the Pacific Classic, I'm sure he would have won the Pacific Classic. I mean, he just coasted to the wire. 104 buyer number would have won that race. And then he went backwards at Santa Anita. But if he runs back to that race at Del Mar, a track that I'm pretty sure he prefers, I think you're going to see an exhibition here. I really like him in this race.
Will the real Ultra Power please stand up, right? I mean, the good one is really good. We'll see on Saturday. That's the Native Diver Stakes. Another stakes note for you. You can play, watch and wager with ExpressBet on the Japan Cup card from Tokyo Racecourse on Saturday night into Sunday morning. Post time is 7:30 Eastern for the first race of a 12-race card. It goes into 1:40 a.m., the post time for the 12th and final on the card, which is the big race, the Japan Cup. We've got a $10 money back special with First Bet and ExpressBet when you bet the Japan Cup. Field of 14 entered in that one, including Auguste Rodin and his career swan song, final career start for him. You also have Goliath, bought into in recent months by Jon Stewart. So some American ownership interest on Goliath going into the Japan Cup. Deuce is going to be the favorite, probably two-time Group 1 winner from Japan. You can meet the contenders for the Japan Cup. Check out my blog at expressbet.com and news.first.com. I'll give you the news and notes on all 14 contenders to help bring you up to speed as you handicap that race. But Jeff, Japan Cup, 1:40 a.m. Eastern. That's only 10:40 your time, so you'll probably be like halftime of a football game checking that out.
Actually, this is Sunday now we're talking about?
Saturday night into Sunday.
Saturday night. Okay. No, I'll be at the SU-UCLA game, which is a night game this year. It'll be 51 degrees. I'll be shivering, but I can watch it on my phone, can I? I mean, I think I have
absolutely.
To. All right. Looking forward to that.
Watch and wager.
By the way, what do you make of Auguste Rodin? I mean, he doesn't have to be in this race. They don't need the money. I think maybe they feel that they want him to go out a winner, and I don't think they'd ship him all the way over there unless they thought he was right. But again, with him, you just never know,
Yeah,
so,
they, after seeing what happened with City of Troy and almost the marketing buzz that was behind him and bringing him to the U.S., it was almost like to show him off for buyers as much as
no doubt.
Running in the Classic. I'm not so sure with the Japanese buying a lot of bloodstock that they're not kind of trying to show him off in front of the Japanese market so that when he goes to stud and his horses start to sell, that the Japanese bidders might be a little more interested in his offspring. So we'll see. I mean, certainly if he can run well in the Japan Cup, then the Auguste Rodin offspring are going to sell for a lot more with the Japanese bidders getting into it down the line. They're being very marketing centric, it feels like, this year with the Coolmore group. So I don't know if he's in that race because he's, set to run a big one, or if he's in that race to maybe help make some sales down the line. Could be either or after what we saw with City of Troy's performance in the Breeders' Cup Classic. But that's Auguste Rodin, last year's 2023 Breeders' Cup winner in the Turf division, going to the Japan Cup on Saturday. Speaking of Breeders' Cup winners from 2023, we've got one running today. White Abarrio is in at Gulfstream Park, race number 7 on the card, so be sure to check that out today. I think it's somewhere in the 3 o'clock hour Eastern time, 3:30 for the post time for the White Abarrio race, so be sure to check that out. Along with the carryover in the late pick 5. The late pick 5 today at Gulfstream's got about 60,000 plus in the late pick 5 carryover, so check that out. That sequence includes White Abarrio. If you beat him, you might be looking at a real big payoff in the pick 5. If you like him, you're making the pick 5 a pick 4 the way it seems. So some good gambling on Friday, some great gambling across the weekend, and hopefully we helped you unearth some of those winners. Jeff Siegel, tell the fans what you'll have this weekend at expressbet.com.
Got best plays at Del Mar for today, which has been posted, also tomorrow, and then Sunday as well. And then I don't know. I mean, we've got Thanksgiving weekend. I might be posting next week, see if I'm up to it. I've got family obligations, but I might find time to, if I really like something. So if I'm posting, I really like it. That's next week. And then December will be, kind of preparing for Santa Anita. But if I like something at Gulfstream, you'll know about it. I'll post.
All right, championship meet just 6 days away now, starting next week on Thanksgiving Thursday at Gulfstream Park. So enjoy all the great racing action across North America and all the way to the Far East in Japan on Saturday night into Sunday morning. Jeff and I will be back on Tuesday. I'm sure we'll talk Japan Cup and everything that happened over the course of the weekend on the It's Official podcast. We'll have that for you coming up on Tuesday. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you then.